Welcome to episode 1.2 of our Explainer series. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. If you're a focused learner trying to figure out why global literacy instruction needs a massive, fundamental rewrite, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving deep into structured literacy versus guessing. We're going to demystify the science of reading by unpacking the evidence and the frameworks developed by international literacy specialist Blessing Michael. She's a phenomenal educator who has diagnosed exactly why kids worldwide are struggling to read, and more importantly, how we can actually fix it. So get ready, because we are about to completely reframe how we think about teaching literacy.
763 million. According to 2024 UNESCO data, that's the staggering number of adults worldwide who simply cannot read. Just let the sheer scale of that sink in for a second. We're not just talking about digits on a spreadsheet here. These are individuals trying to navigate a world that demands literacy, completely locked out of opportunities by systems that failed them early on. We are looking at a massive global reading crisis, and it requires our immediate attention.
And you know the roots of that massive adult statistic? They start right inside the classroom. In sub-Saharan Africa alone, over 80% of children reach grade 4 totally unable to read a simple sentence. 80%! But here is the absolutely crucial thing you need to take away from this explainer today. This is not a student failure. It's never the kids. This is a systemic instruction failure. Our current systems are prioritizing getting through the material and rote memorization instead of true comprehension and mastery.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the roadmap we'll use today to dismantle these ingrained reading myths. We'll cover 1. The global reading crisis. 2. Decoding versus comprehension. 3. The flaw in guessing. 4. What is structured literacy? 5. The science of reading. And finally 6. Teaching with data.
Section 1. The global reading crisis. A systemic instruction failure.
So the pattern literacy experts keep seeing globally is this incredibly dangerous mismatch between the teaching tools being used and the actual classroom context. Basically, schools are adopting reading programs designed for a very specific, usually Western, English as a first language environment. Then, they just import these resources wholesale into incredibly diverse, multilingual classrooms where kids might be speaking Yoruba, Hausa, Tagalog, or Swahili at home. And when the outcomes are poor, the kids get unfairly blamed. But you literally cannot force a localized tool onto a global context without addressing those foundational gaps first. Section 2. Decoding versus comprehension, also known as the illusion of reading. Have you ever actually watched a kid who appears to be reading? You know, they're moving their lips, sounding out the text, but then when you ask them what they just read, they just stare at you blankly? This right here is known as the decoding gap. It's this heartbreaking illusion of reading. The child is mechanically vocalizing the words, sure, but true comprehension is completely missing. And again, this decoding problem doesn't happen because they lack intelligence. It happens because they lack systematic instruction.
Section 3. The flaw in guessing, because hoping really isn't teaching.
So what's causing this massive gap? Well, we have to look at these deeply problematic methods often bundled under balanced literacy. In so many of these imported curriculums, children are quite literally being taught to guess. They're told to look at the pictures to figure out a word, use context clues, or just memorize sight words as whole shapes. Think about how fragile that is. We're teaching kids to treat words like abstract pictures they just have to memorize, rather than explicitly showing them the reliable, concrete relationship between letters and sounds. When we teach guessing, we aren't teaching reading. We're literally just hoping they figure it out. It's really night and day when you compare them. On one hand, you have methods hoping a child just magically infers a word from context or a picture. On the other hand, you have structured literacy, which actually hands the child the toolkit. It gives them the phonemes, the explicit rules, the real decoding strategies to tackle any word they encounter. One is a wild approximation, the other is a literal science.
Section 4. What is structured literacy? The universal remedy.
If guessing is the problem, this is our lifeline. Let's see how structured literacy builds a skilled reader step by step, because it's not abstract, it's super actionable. Step 1, you explicitly teach the sound-letter relationships. Step 2, you develop orthographic mapping. That's just the mental process we use to store words so we can retrieve them immediately and effortlessly. And step 3, utilizing small group instruction so you can manage different reading abilities right there in the classroom. This is the actual proven mechanics of how skilled reading gets built.
Blessing Michael hits the nail on the head here. In structured literacy, a teacher sits down and explicitly says, "This letter makes this sound. Here's the rule, here's how it works. Now you try. It removes absolutely all ambiguity from the learning process. You aren't asking a kid to look at a drawing of a dog to guess the word dog. You are handing them the master code to the English language.
Section 5. The Science of Reading. Demystifying the jargon.
You hear this phrase thrown around a lot, but the science of reading is exactly what it sounds like. It is a comprehensive body of evidence-based, field-tested research showing exactly how the human brain actually learns to read. And the best part? Because it's based on the hard cognitive science of the brain, it works reliably across multilingual and under-resourced classrooms globally. Unlike those flimsy guessing models, this scientific approach completely transcends cultural and linguistic barriers.
Section 6. Teaching with data. Knowing your learners.
Because understanding the science is only half the battle. You absolutely cannot fix what you haven't measured. Educators have to start with data. We're talking rapid 15-minute diagnostic literacy audits. We're talking establishing solid baseline assessments for those foundational skills and analyzing that data to pinpoint the exact reading gaps for every single student. You stop approximating and you start knowing exactly where a child is on their literacy journey.
I love this quote from Blessing Michael because it validates that frustration teachers feel when a curriculum just isn't working. She says, teaching without data is not teaching, it is hoping. We have got to shift from assumption to rigorous diagnosis. We literally owe it to these learners to know exactly what they need next.
If you take away just one single thing from this explainer today, make it this core mantra. Guessing is not a reading strategy. We have to systematically tear down these guessing habits that have been so ingrained in kids and schools all over the world. True comprehension, true empowerment, only comes from explicit, structured decoding.
So, I'm going to leave you with this somewhat provocative question to challenge your own practices today. Are you teaching your learners to read, or are you just teaching them to guess? The research is crystal clear, the evidence is out there, and we have the tools. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and definitely take a hard look at your own data cycles to see how you can rewrite the literacy story in your community.